Welcome to the full moon in Libra 2023. I'm Colleen Pearl, the Cool Crone, and I will be your astrologer for this video. To get a reading with me, please go to my website, thecoolcrone.com, and click on the Services tab and then Book Now. Or you can send me an email to coolcrone444.com. The full moon will take place on April 6th at 34 minutes past midnight at 16 degrees Libra, 7 minutes. The full moon, here's the chart, is a culmination point of the month. Whenever we have a full moon, we have the sun on one side of the sky and the moon on the other. In this case, the moon is in Libra, which is not a particularly strong place for the moon to be. It's a little less emotional here because Libra is an air sign, but nevertheless, it is a full moon. Now, the sun is in Aries, and this is a place where the sun really likes to be. Aries is vital and full and leadership and fiery and powerful and militant. Now, when you have the sun and the moon in Aries and Libra opposing each other, you always come into relationship because this is the Libra-Aries axis, and that always speaks about you and the other. Now, in this case, the sun, the other, happens to have a lot of company this month. We've got Chiron right here. We've got Jupiter. We've got Vesta, which is one of the asteroids. We've got Eris, which is another asteroid, and Mercury and the North Node. So there is a whole grouping here opposing the moon. So when we have a full moon, the energy just becomes potent, full. It is usually a culmination or a peak of energy that is resulting out of your desires from the previous new moon. And the previous new moon would have been about 2.5 weeks previously. So with all of that in mind, we can look then at the sun, because we're calling it the full moon, right? So we look at what's on the other side of the sky, which is the sun with all these planets here. And right off the bat, you can guess that there is a lot of opposition. It's opposing. There's tons of planetary energy opposing this moon. The moon is our emotions. So this is going to be a moon where if you can bear it, you should really try to do shadow work. It's going to help you a lot. But because this full moon has so much opposition, you are also going to find it difficult to do that shadow work. Now, the sun is at 15 degrees of Aries 56. The moon is at 16 degrees of Libra 7. So if you have any cardinal planets at, I'd say from 10, maybe even 8 degrees of the cardinal sign, all the way up to, say, 24 degrees of a cardinal sign, that's a big swath. So if you have cardinal planets in all but the very early and the very late degrees, this full moon is going to hit you right between the eyes. Let's just put it that way. And now I'm going to go through the aspects one by one to explain what they mean and to describe sort of the influence that they're going to have on you. And except for Mars and Pluto, what I just said about the degrees is really going to fit because most of the aspects have to do with this little cluster of planets down here. Now there is one, also for Saturn and Neptune there are some aspects, but they involve Mars and they usually will involve the moon or the sun. So what I just said about the cardinal planets is really true. So generally people with cardinal planets this full moon are really going to feel it very, very much. All right, so let's get into the aspects. First of all, we just start out with the sun opposing the moon, which is what I just described with the full moon. But if you are, say, a Cancer or a Capricorn, this full moon is also going to hit you, not just the Aries and Libra people. So be aware of that, that anybody with cardinal planets is going to feel this in some way. Now, if it's not a sun or a moon, if it's a Venus, a Mercury, Mars, those planets will also, in cardinal signs, be very sensitive to this full moon. If it's a Saturn, a Uranus, a Neptune, maybe not quite so much, but you will feel it. All right, then we have the Sun conjunct Jupiter. Now, this really, I think, sets up the definition of this full moon. You've got Jupiter at 20 degrees Aries and the Sun at 15 degrees Aries. This means that the Sun is approaching Jupiter, so this aspect is going to last for at least a week, if not a little bit longer. It's going to be 5 days away from hitting Jupiter 20 degrees, actually 4 days away because it's already almost at 16 degrees. And when it hits that exactly, which will be about 4 days after the full moon, that's when you may see the real fullness of that aspect. And what this aspect says is bigger is better. If you're sensitive to this, this will bring you a lot of luck, but if something needs the luck, do it during the full moon. It's going to make you feel very expansive, like you're the king of the world, just tremendous amount of optimism that may cause you to do things really great, almost by accident. However, there's a lot of other aspects during this full moon that I'm going to say you don't want to be too easy with this feeling of confidence and that you're the king of the world, because there's so many other planets involved that could make this dicey. We'll just say dicey. All right, and the next aspect is the moon square Mars. Here's the first of those aspects that are dicey. Mars is the planet of war. The moon in Libra is not particularly strong. So the moon, which is going to be your emotions, and it's going to make you more emotional if you've got those cardinal planets, is going to make things difficult. You're going to have conflict with the square. That's always a conflict, but also an opportunity. So you're going to have an opportunity to use your emotions in a more assertive way. But it may be something to do with the home or your family, because we've got Libra and Cancer involved here. Libras are very proud of their homes. They usually have beautiful homes. So the sign Libra can also be pride of place, of your home. But Cancer is always about the family and home. Now, this is a difficult thing to pair with the Sun and Jupiter, which we just talked about. This may make you extremely bossy, especially at home, and it may cause people within your home to just feel like you're bossing them around. You're just telling them what to do, or that you're trying to control them. So try not to let your optimism and possibly your ballooning ego cause you to treat others badly, and realize that on this full moon, you may not realize how you're treating people because you feel like you're the king of the world. So I'm going to keep going back to that Sun in Jupiter because it's going to color everything. All right, then we have the moon in opposition to that Jupiter, and this means that your needs increase. So you're going to feel somewhat needy, like you need the people in your family to do what you want them to do, or you need them to approve of what it is that you're trying to get them to do. So realize that their needs may be increasing too. And so you are searching for a way to get them to do what you want them to do. And you may just be bossing them around, but realize that they have needs, and they may be feeling very inadequate, or they may be feeling almost bullied by you at this. Now, another way that this aspect may play out is that you may be looking for religious meaning in life, or you could be looking for just someone to blame for things that are not going right for you. So moon opposition Jupiter, a little complex there, but I think if you can temper yourself just a bit with that Jupiter, I think you can be okay. And then we have Mercury sextile Mars. Mercury speeds up the mind. Mercury is the mind, and when it's conjunct or sextiling Mars, it's going to speed up. Okay, so you're going to be thinking faster. With all of this Jupiter influence, this could mean that you'll be jumping to conclusions because you'll be glossing over things. You'll be just going too quickly with all of this. However, Mercury is in Taurus, so you may be considering these things and just deciding that you don't care, that you're not going to consider their feelings, which is not great for the people in your family. Now, Mercury in Taurus and Mars in Cancer. Cancer is also the home, but usually the kitchen too. So one positive benefit of this aspect could be that some culinary events could come together very quickly and very deliciously. That would be great. Tossing in the, random leftovers in an unusual way, and you come up with a fantastic feast. If you can apply that metaphor for the situation that you're in, then sit back and see what happens with Mercury sextile Mars. This could be really great, but I think it could also lead to hurt feelings where you're just glossing over things and trying to do things too quickly. Then we have Mercury sextile Saturn. Now, Mercury sextiling Saturn, Mercury is at a very early degree of Taurus, and the sextile to Saturn is with Saturn in the early degrees of Pisces. So this is a little bit of a different aspect, and this may affect a lot of people who have either fixed signs, which are Taurus, Leo, Aquarius, and Scorpio, or mutable signs, which are Gemini, Virgo, Pisces, and Sagittarius, in very early degrees. So if you have that, then you may experience this with this full moon, and it is the one positive aspect where it's the mark of the good student. So it could have you really taking good notes or being very practical in your approach to trying to get things done, using tried and true methods and systems. You could be very structured in your learning or teaching, or very structured in your approach to projects on this day. So this is the one really positive aspect that we have with this full moon. And then we have Mercury square Pluto. So Mercury being our mind in Taurus, so we're thinking a little slower, even with the aspect with Mars. That Taurus influence will slow it down just a touch. But Pluto is in Aquarius. That is lots of opinionated dealings. Pluto is going to insist that they are the big thinker, they are the visionary, they have the correct opinion, but be very obsessive and intense about it. And with Mercury there, you're going to be communicating that to people. Now, if you could just put your nose in the library and do some study or research under this aspect, that would be better. But even there, you could come to some conclusions where you just feel like nobody else has ever found this before. This is, I've discovered the, answer to life, and anybody who doesn't agree with me is just stupid. I mean, you could be very insensitive about this, and you could impose your opinions on people. And what I would say is just wait until the time has passed and then express those opinions. So like 4 or 5 days after the full moon. And then we have Mercury conjunct the node. With Mercury conjunct the node, this is the beginning of a series of aspects that hit with the node. And the focus of this full moon is a lot about your life work and your mission, but as it relates to daily life. A lot of times, we'll go away, like we'll have a long weekend or on a vacation or even going to a retreat. And that's when we're going to be thinking about the larger implications of our mission, our legacy, our, what we're going to leave behind in this life. With Mercury conjunct the node, the actions that you take to fulfill that destiny are what happens in your day-to-day life. And that's what this aspect is about. It's going to look at the things that you do in day-to-day life and assess whether they are really promoting and helping you go towards your destiny and your mission. So on the positive side with this aspect, You'll find that you have a healthy self-awareness and, and an attitude about your own self-esteem, and you're able to accept criticism about yourself. But even with that self-awareness, you may not believe what other people say. This could also have you very curious about your own background and trying to see how your background influences you in day-to-day life. In other words, your ancestry, people who came before you, or even your DNA ancestry. So you may be interested in looking into that at the time of this full moon. Now, on the negative side, you may also feel that life has just dealt you a bad hand, that there's too many obstacles for you to get what you need in life or to achieve what you want to do in this life. So you're not really taking those, in that instance, you or the person who's thinking this way is not taking responsibility for creating their own life, nor taking responsibility for their own choices. And this can cause great unhappiness. Whereas if you take the more positive spin and accept some of that self-awareness and self-criticism, you can allow yourself to feel in control in your life, to change it, to make changes in your lifestyle and in your choices in general that will create a much more harmonious life for yourself. And we've got Venus sextile Neptune. This is a very fantastical picture of Venus, but I loved it, so I put it in because it was very, very pretty. But Venus sextile Neptune is going to urge you towards a fantasy or very romantic ideal in your relationships right now. You're going to really lean into your imagination, your intuition, your spiritual side, and also romantic relationships. This aspect will last about a week, so you can make the most of that. And then we have Venus trining Pluto. All of that stuff I just said about Venus and Neptune, just ratchet that up to the power of 10, because the emotional intensity injected by Pluto is going to be very, very high. Now, Venus is just still approaching this trine, so this is going to last a little while. So if this is good, great, but just realize that all your relationships, friendships, romantic relationships, business relationships are all going to have an emotional intensity in them now that can maybe cause fights, maybe jealousy, possessiveness, things like that. And you're going to wonder, where did all this come from and what's going on? And in this next breath, you're going to be turning around to your partner and demanding to know why they don't feel that intensity. Or maybe they do, and you don't understand why it's coming from them. So that Pluto is really ratcheting up the intensity right now in an artificial way, but it will pass. Probably about 10 days is what you're going to get with this. Now, the next aspect is Mars trine Saturn. Mars is in Cancer and Saturn is in Pisces, and they're both in early degrees of those signs. So you will feel an influx of energy. You will feel like you can work without taking a break, and you'll just work, 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 but you won't be taking great risks. Like if you really get like low blood sugar because you haven't eaten in a minute, you'll stop and eat. You're not going to take risks with your health under this, but you will be able to just work, 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 work. You will also really adhere to very practical, conservative things so that your approach will be fine and you will be quite productive during this full moon period. So a few days before the full moon, up to the full moon, and a few days after, you'll have this influx of energy. And then we have Mars sextile node. You'll be very involved in working out things about your legacy. And this goes back to the other aspects where we talked about the node. The feeling that your life is important and that you need to modify your game plan will be really strong right now. And then we have Saturn sextile the node. Again, this is in the very early degrees of these signs, Saturn being in Pisces, the node being in Taurus. So very focused on working on overcoming challenges and carrying out your responsibilities. And don't forget that Mercury influence as it relates to your day-to-day life. So you may raise your standards and focus tirelessly on your mission in life. So, be a little careful with that. You don't want to hold yourself to such a high standard that you exhaust yourself just trying to fulfill your mission. It's your mission for your whole life. So you don't have to accomplish it in, 10 minutes. You can take your time with that. And then last but not least, we have Pluto in Aquarius also squaring the node. So we've got a lot of difficulty with the nodes right now. So what I would say is that, Pluto is that intensity. It's always going to put the focus on whatever it touches. And right now it's the focus of that destiny. So if you haven't already been working through this with Mars and Saturn, Pluto is really going to almost scare you with the intensity that it causes you to focus on these things. Now, Pluto is also going to bring about issues within you of your power and your powerlessness. And this will cause you to come face to face with some shadow issues, some shadow work that needs to be done. So as you are encountering this and dealing with your shadow self, this is the opportunity that I spoke of earlier on in the video to really overcome these challenges and to smooth the way to really achieve what you need to achieve in your life path. Now, that doesn't mean that things are all going to be, rainbows and unicorns for the rest of your life, but some major things could be worked out during this full moon. So that's really good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to sort of summarize all of this so that you can understand what all the pieces really mean. In general, this is a tough full moon. Libra is always advertised as the nice and easy sign, the sign where everyone falls in love and has great hair. But Libra is also the sign that rules justice and the courts. The actual structure of the courts comes under this Venus rule sign, and I think a lot of people are going to get either involved with lawsuits or the legal industry in some way, or actually just go to court under this moon. Almost every aspect of this moon is either a square or a conjunction, where it involves benefic planets, and squares and conjunctions are the toughest aspects to deal with, or the aspect involves a malefic planet outright. So I don't really see happy, harmonious aspects with this full moon. But during this lunation, we're going to be forced to look at our main purpose in life, our focus, our mission. And for many of us, we will come up short because this moon is focusing on what's gone wrong or what is lacking in our game plan. So you may find that you don't agree with the actions that you yourself have already taken in your life so far, and you may be hard-pressed to come up with a better plan. But during this lunation, we are being given the tools to do just that. Problem being that we feel a bit overwhelmed, and it's going to be difficult to formulate a cogent plan. Now, the overconfident Jupiter plus the Mars-Saturn involvement is at work here. The signs involved with the malefics are not good. Saturn in Pisces isn't the strongest, nor is Mars in Cancer. Pluto in Aquarius is fairly strong, but Jupiter in Aries is really strong. It just blows up everything and pushes our confidence levels into unrealistic territory. Your BS meter will be completely off, and you may be seeing things through rose-colored glasses and not be able to tell that you are kind of off, that you're not really seeing things in a balanced way. So, for this full moon, you need to prepare carefully. Meditate now, right now, about your future. That's why I put this video out so early, so that you could do these things. Meditate now about your future, your mission, your legacy in this life. Are you living it the way you want to be remembered? Are you proud of what you're leaving behind on this earth? It matters. It matters to you, your soul, and your soul family. That you do what you feel in your heart is right. Also, have you explored and experienced all your potential? It is important not to sell yourself short or waste your life only doing things for others and not feeding your soul's purpose or purposes. I know these things may seem at odds, but we are able to multitask and to do two things at once. When we raise our own vibration, we also raise it for those around us. So dig deep. do some shadow work before you get to this beautiful full moon, and accept what you see. Accept that you are a work in progress, and do some of that work. It's important. You are important.